Hey everybody. You see the title down below, and this obviously, it depends on whether you're a fan of, one company or the other or both. But also, it's just, when you compare the two factions that are, that are being, done, the two storyline factions with, the two main storyline factions that are being presented and done in their company, in their individual companies, you got to ask yourself who's doing a better job. So, basically, that's what it says down below. Who's doing a better job? WWE with the Shield or TNA with Aces and 8's? And I know, like I said, it all depends on what you're a fan of. I know some people will say that TNA is doing a better job with Aces and 8's. Some will say WWE is doing a better job with the Shield. And some will be like, well, it all depends on how you look at it. Me, honestly, I have to say that WWE is doing a better job with the Shield. And yeah, the Shield's a smaller group. If you go to a smaller faction, and two of the members do consist of what many people consider IWC, YWC fan favorites in Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. But here's why the WWE is doing a better job with the Shield than TNA is with the Aces and 8's. See, let's go with TNA. Let's start with TNA. When TNA brought Aces and 8's in after Slammiversary, it potentially looked like a good idea. And for a while, it did. You didn't really have them competing in matches. You had them doing the attacks and all that, making them look threatening. The only, I think, closest thing you had to a match at the time was that fight that Doc, I think it was Doc, Luke Gallows had with Austin Aries. And that was about it. But even with that fight, you started seeing something that obviously TNA has kept doing and was the wrong thing to do. You started making Aces and 8's look weak. You did. Now, true, you've done a lot of things. You've done a lot of things with Aces and 8's that have made them look. TNA that has. True, TNA has done a lot of things that's made Aces and 8's at times look like a threat, like a viable, real threat. They have done some things. I will give them that. But those things that they've done are outshined or outdone by the things that TNA is doing with Aces and 8's that they shouldn't be doing. When you had them, kidnap Hogan, Mace, Hogan, and Sting and kidnap them and take them to the hideout to negotiate with the VP, if you will. That was good. That was good. What you had them do at the wedding a couple of weeks ago, that was good. But pretty much besides those two occasions and a few other things, everything else, the majority of everything else TNA has done with Aces and 8's, it has been stupid. It's basically derailing the very group that you want to showcase as a viable threat to your company. Now, like I said, when they first started, at first none of us knew who they were until, of course, sources online indicated that a majority of the members were exactly who they turned out to be later on. And those members being Gallows, Knox, Garrett Bischoff, Wes Briscoe. Now, there have been a few exceptions that we didn't see coming, like Mr. Anderson, Devon, and Taz. Those are the only exceptions of Aces and 8's members we didn't see coming. And I'm sure there's other members that have yet to be unmasked, including the so-called higher power. But besides that, what TNA has done a majority of with Aces and 8's, with a few exceptions like I mentioned, that's not the way you do a faction that you're supposed to showcased as being a viable threat, a real threat to your company, a real threat to your roster. That's not how you do that. The way you do it is how WWE's done it. And they're only doing it with 3 guys. I mean, the Shield debuted at Survivor Series, and a majority of the time has been spent attacking people, putting them out, if you will, or putting them down for that night, for that show, and then being done. And another thing that WWE has done better than TNA has done when it comes to the main storyline factions, the main event factions, is WWE rarely on television, rarely has the Shield compete in a match. Well, TNA, on the other hand, has had Aces and 8's ever since Bound for Glory, constantly competing in matches. It's true. You've had Aces and 8's constantly competing in matches. I mean, what's the point? What's the point of that? And what's more, how many victories have they had so far out of this? Let's see, 2, 3 maybe, and a majority of the majority of all the other matches have been losses. That's not how you do things, folks. The way you do things is how WWE does it with the Shield. I mean, let's see. You know, in live events, the Shield has competed in some matches, but as we all know, unless something comes up with a superstar, only then does a championship change hands at a live event. But unless everything's okay, then very rarely do you have a title change. You know what I'm saying? Very rarely do you have a title change. And majority of the time, like I said, unless something comes up, unless something personal wise comes up with a superstar that is kind of outside the business or whatever, only then do you have a title change at a live event, and then it's reported the following night on Raw or SmackDown. But with those few exceptions, a majority of the time, live events don't really translate that much onto television. Excuse me. Live events don't usually translate that much onto television. Basically, the live events, are non-existent at times. Like I said, with a few exceptions, with a few rare exceptions, they are kind of non-existent to television. So, when you look at it from a television perspective, the Shield has only competed in, let's say, 1 match. And that was at TLC, in what many have argued to be one of the best TLC matches they have seen. And now, when you translate the Shield to when you see the Shield on television, you kind of say to yourself, okay, they've only had 1 match. When's the second match? Oh, the second match is coming up at Elimination Chamber. That's right. You see, they could have had them compete in the Royal Rumble match, but they didn't. They held off on that. They decided to wait until Elimination Chamber. See, WWE's doing what TNA should have done. They're holding off on it. They're making the Shield situation a big deal. Well, TNA, they just keep dragging Aces and 8's out to go in the ring and job. You're basically making TNA is basically making the most threatening faction look weak. And you're not supposed to do that. And furthermore, if the Mask were, as many people have pointed out, like the Schleg Daddy, like the British Fist, like Mike Rout, like Jeff Meacham, J.J. Williams, and the list can go on. If their masks are supposed to be their power and identity, then you have them do whatever the heck they have to do to keep those masks on them. And only and then what you do is you set up a match to where if Aces and Eights lose, all of them have to unmask. That way you save it for a special occasion, like say a lethal lockdown match, with the stipulation that if they lose, they have to unmask. And by doing so, it makes it more special. It makes it more grand. It makes it more of a big deal. But are they doing that here? But is that what TNA is doing? No, they're not doing it. I mean, WWE's making a bigger deal and doing a much better job with the Shield. And I'm pretty sure, and you know what? I'm pretty sure if you would have given WWE that Aces and Eights storyline, I hate to say this, they probably would have done a better job than TNA's doing. End of story. It's the truth. It's the truth. You know, you people know it. I know it. The fact is, when you compare the two companies' main event factions, WWE's doing a heck of a lot better elevating the Shield than TNA is elevating Aces and Eights. And I know a lot of people can say, "Oh well, they're doing this, they did that," you know. And I know a lot of people can say, "Well, TNA's doing this. They're actually main eventing guys that never got the main event spotlight in WWE." Yeah, I understand that. I get that, but guess what? It still doesn't make sense as to why you would constantly have them job. If you're going to make them a viable threat, as everybody's saying, you need to make them look like one. You need to make them look like a viable threat. You need to make them look like they are a real dangerous threat, a real deal, a dangerous threat to the TNA roster. You need to make people in TNA worry if they're going to have a job and kind of be worried about wanting to go out and compete. You need to do that, folks. But TNA's not doing that. WWE's doing a hell of a lot better job with the Shield, and that's only 3 members. So, honestly, when you compare both factions, both companies' factions, main event factions, despite how you feel about WWE and some of the things they do, WWE's doing a hell of a lot better job with the Shield, which only consists of 3 people, than TNA's doing with Aces and Eights. I mean, you had to put, and you know what, and here's another thing. WWE's not relying on a major name to help the Shield out. The Shield is establishing themselves. Checking my time there. But the Shield is establishing themselves. They don't need help. They don't need a major name. But look what TNA's doing. They say, "Oh, okay, let's put Devon in there. Let's put Ken Anderson in there. Let's put Taz in there." Was that needed? No. I mean, who's next? Kurt Angle? The thing is, you do not need TNA. The thing is, TNA did not have to put those 3 in there. They could have had those individuals that were already confirmed to be part of Aces and Eights do the Aces and Eights thing on their own, and on their own prove to be a viable threat. But they didn't do that. They didn't follow up on that. They did it at the beginning, but they didn't follow up on that. So, I hate, as much as people may hate me for saying this WWE is doing a heck of a lot better job with the Shield, and that only consists of 3, than TNA's doing with a faction like the huge faction like Aces and Eights. Ladies and gentlemen, you let me know what you think. Who do you think's doing a better job? I'm pretty sure a lot of you might say the Shield. I'm pretty sure of that, but some might say Aces and Eights. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Okay? Let me know what you guys think down below. Oh, and before I go, you know what another job they're doing better, WWE is? They let the Shield win at TLC. Okay? Yeah, Aces and Eights won at Bound for Glory, but a majority of the time, they've been losing with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 other victories. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think's doing a better job? Comment down below, video response on if you want, and I'll talk to you later.